Joining us now, Jake Sherman, co-founder of Punchbowl News and an MSNBC political contributor. Former Congressman Charlie Dent is back with us. So, Jake, bottom line, can Republicans get this done by going it alone?
They sure think so, but I've heard that many times before. So here's the basic, and Mr. Dent will know this as well, but when there's a continuing resolution, one of these stopgap funding bills, this one is until September, the end of September, it basically includes, it carries over a bunch of the former spending priorities of the former administration or the last fiscal year. In this case, that is the former administration. What Democrats say is that by not writing new spending bills, they're ceding authority to the administration to spend money how they want. So there's two kind of situations here. If Republicans could pass this thing alone in the House, then they could do whatever they want. And they could put whatever they want in the bill and hope that the Senate Democrats or the Republicans and Democrats in the Senate pick it up. If they can't and they need Democratic votes, then they need to do something the Democrats want. They need to give something to Democrats. So if I had to listen, I've had a lot of conversations with both leaderships, the Democratic and the Republican leadership this morning. I do think that the Republicans believe they could get it through with just their own lawmakers. There's only one hard no right now, Tom Massie, who said he would have to have a lobotomy today in order to vote for this bill. And as I noted, I don't think lobotomies are still commonly practiced. So it sounds like Mr. Massie will be a no.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, Congressman. Another quote from Tom Massie. If it passes this week, the CR obligates Trump from now until September to spend the same amounts of money on generally the same things Biden spent money on in his last 15 months in office. Is that the kind of fact that could blow things up for the speaker?
Well, that's a true statement from Tom Massie. And yes, he is a hard no. By the way, having served on the Appropriations Committee, we used to have a word for a year-long continuing resolution: failure. That means Congress is not doing its job. I mean, a year-long continuing resolution, in many respects, does kneecap the administration, particularly the Pentagon. They're not going to be able to move money where they need it. That's why we have an appropriations process. And as Jake has pointed out correctly, I'm kind of skeptical that they have the votes to pass this thing. They will need seven Democratic votes in the Senate. They have 53. They'll need 60 votes for an appropriations bill. I don't see them getting 60 there. And Tom Massie's a hard no, and I wouldn't be shocked if there might be one or two others no. Maybe a Democrat votes for this, but I kind of doubt it. But right now, I'll tell you, this is not a good way to run the government. And this does basically continue the Biden spending levels that so many of the Republicans have been blasting for so long.
And yet it does seem to be the way things go now in 2025, 2024, 2023. I can't remember how far back these CRs go, but they go back and back and back. So, Jake, here's the reaction from some top Democrats, okay? Senator Patty Murray likened the continuing resolution to a slush fund. Rosa DeLauro, the congresswoman, said it was a power grab that would allow Musk and Trump to steal from the American people. And then let me play what Senator Alyssa Slotkin told Kristen on Meet the Press.
The president has been deciding how to spend the money any way he wants, even when we have a budget that both Democrats and Republicans voted on. That's a constitutional issue, right? Everyone knows Congress has the power of the purse. So until I see some assurances that whatever we pass next week is going to ensure that the money is spent the way Congress intends, I'm gonna withhold my vote.
So reality check. Jake, do Democrats hold real cards? How much power do they have here?
A lot. If Republicans can't get to 217 or 216, depending on what the numbers are in the House, Democrats hold real cards. Now, there's a lot of mistakes that have been made by both sides here. Mike Johnson, it was a questionable decision for him to place this government funding deadline in March, just a couple months into this administration, which he's trying to pass this big reconciliation bill with tax cuts and spending cuts. There was no reason except to protect his speakership that he put it in March. That's number one. Number two, Democrats, I would say, they would argue, I'll just tell you that, but in my estimation, Democrats have not had a unified ask that puts Republicans in a tough spot. So they've been in negotiations. Democrats have tried to get Republicans to insert things in the bill, but it's things like limiting how Donald Trump could spend money. Donald Trump is never going to sign anything that puts any limitations on his power. So there haven't been any real kind of appealing things for Democrats to try to stick in the bill. So I think they've misplayed their hand just a little bit there, not much. But yes, they have real cards if Republicans don't have the votes. And I'll just say one thing. If this bill passes the House and gets to the Senate on Tuesday night, Wednesday, and they have 2 days until a shutdown, and Republicans and the House is going to be out of town, Democrats are going to their retreat in Virginia, the Senate is going to have to find a way to pass this because they're not going to shut down the government with the House out of town. And I think they're going to have to find 7 Senate Democrats to pass this thing. I think it'll be a tough vote for the Virginia and Maryland delegations in the Senate, which have a lot of federal workers. They don't want a government shutdown. I think it will be difficult for a lot of these folks. But again, this is no way to run the government. We are in a deadline week. The government runs out of funding Friday, and we're only getting to business here on Tuesday.
Jake Sherman, former Congressman Charlie Dent, to be continued. Thanks, guys.